making the invisible visible, black women 365 days of the year. Each day will spotlight a remarkable woman whose story has shaped black, British or global diasporic history. Women whose achievements are too often overlooked. Through these daily short films, we create a living, breathing archive of leadership, creativity, resistance and legacy. Let's begin.
So my name is Leila Hassan Howe. Who am I really? From the age of 21, I became a black activist in Britain, and that activism is really carried on throughout the rest of my life. I'm now 77. I have been part of a very radical black collective called the Race Today Collective from 73 until 89, and we produced a journal which represented the voices of the black and Asian immigrant communities in Britain at that time. And our view was that we were not victims, that we weren't helpless people who needed to be supported to do what we had to do, but that we brought our own experience, our history, our own energy and our own understanding of our reality. So if I was to describe who I was, I would say that it's in my bones really, activism. As much as there might have been periods when I might not have been as active, it's something that's intrinsic to me and something, I have a worldview, and that worldview has not changed. I understand about the ruling class oppression, and I know which side I'm on. And I know that still at my ripe old age, I want to do whatever I can to develop our own people to be themselves and to have eventually proper equal rights and justice. Again, because of my age, I think unless you know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. And one of the things which I won't say upsets me, but concerns me, is the view of young people that everything is about now. And not understanding that unless we understand our history and learn from it and the mistakes, I'm not saying our history was always, the greatest thing ever. We made mistakes. But unless you understand that black people in this country have a historical framework by which they can operate, then we're always going to be floundering. So I always kind of talk to people about, you can do it, you can make change, you don't have to accept the status quo. But I also ask them to accept that some of the philosophy which we have adopted is not been very positive for us. This individualism, everybody has to make it on their own. There's no kind of sense of community. We know how that was destroyed. We grew up in very much of a sense of community. And that there are things that, not everything that we did, but there are things that we did that you could learn from. I'm really conscious that, to look forward, we need to understand, where we've come from as much as anything else. Otherwise, we're just grasping in the air. An idea happens and it lands and then it disappears. We need to have a bedrock of understanding, which is why I'm really so pleased to be part of today as well. So the Black People's Day of Action has to be the event that for me was groundbreaking. So 13 young children die in a house fire in New Cross. The British media do not cover it at all. No national newspaper talks about 13 dead young people in New Cross. Mrs. Thatcher and the Queen send a message to some children who have died in a disco fire in Ireland. They send a message to the parents of condolence to say that your children died in this fire. The New Cross parents get nothing. So we absolutely mobilised as a national black community. The first meetings we held, people came from Liverpool, Leeds, Leicester, Nottingham, all over. And the question was, what should we do? And the Black People's Day of Action comes out because a black worker's there from Fords who says we need a black strike. And that turns into the Black People's Day of Action, which is on Monday. We will disrupt London. We are marching over Blackfriars Bridge. We're marching down Fleet Street, which is where all the newspapers had their headquarters at that time. The Express, the Mail, the Guardian, all of them. And we're marching through. The parents are going to go to 10 Downing Street. We're going to the Houses of Parliament. But we're making our presence felt. But the organisation of that was completely independent. The only support we got was from a programme called Black Londoners. We raised money to bury the children. We raised all the money for the funerals. And then we were able to bring, still to this day, the largest black demonstration ever held in Britain, the Black People's Day of Action, where people came from all over England to march to say that enough was enough. and that British society had to take note of who we are. And that's when you see, after 81, British society opening up. You see the 4 black MPs, you see blacks' integration into civic society, you see the shift. But that, coupled with what happened in Brixton 3 months later, and then Liverpool and Manchester, is where the seismic shift happens in British society in order to accept that black people have to have equal rights and justice in this country. My mental health is very much tied up with my activism. I feel I have to be doing something, have to be engaged, have to know what's going on. Otherwise, I think I would suffer with mental health issues. And I always say to people that, you know, we've got a lot of victim theory at the moment. We're a victim of sex, we're a victim of race, we're a victim of age, we're a victim of this. But the only way you break out of victimhood is when you engage and you challenge that victimhood. And that's what creates you. And I very much believe that it's that challenge of all that society's put upon us as black people, as women, in terms of, you know, our sex, our age, you know, the way older women are viewed now in society, you know, that's another issue for me. But I find it's only by challenging that and showing that I'm not part of that my mental health is kind of helped. The thing that gives me the joy, I must say, is my grandchildren, tremendous joy. I mean, there's a lot of joy in that. And friendships. I've got good women friends. I've got, you know, a woman friend who I've had for 40 years. We're mates. You know, we can reminisce, we can have a laugh, we can talk. I've got good friendships. And I think that helps as well. But I think over and above, because I have been determined to remain alert about what is going on in society, I think more than anything that has supported my mental health.
Thank you for joining us for today's story. Making the Invisible Visible is our commitment to ensuring that black women's histories and contributions are recognised, valued and kept in daily circulation. Across 2026, we will continue to share these powerful narratives, 365 days of impact, brilliance and inspiration. Stay connected, join the conversation and help us champion the women whose journeys continue to shape our world. I'm Paulette Brooks, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for the next story.